when somebody comes to us and they give us the go-ahead and say, I want to do business with you all, how do we get this money from my current custodian over to us? And a lot of times we get Trey involved and he kind of reviews the plan, but immediately let's assume it's going to go to Schwab first. Before we do anything, let's take a 401k, for instance, because we got a lot of people with buyouts out there. So Craig, you get involved and let's talk about the new business process, the first step we have to do in terms of the rollover. And if Juanita, if you want to jump in too in terms of the order of things, feel free to.
Yeah, that first call for me, I reach out, just check their schedule when they have availability for a 15-minute conference call. Sometimes we can just get it all accomplished in the first call. Sometimes we find out paperwork's necessary, sometimes multiple pieces of paperwork, and so it can get a little bit more cumbersome, and we schedule out how we need to approach all those things.
And then sometimes companies don't even need to know where need an account number, but a lot of times we call these companies, we just can't tell them to send a check payable to Schwab or whatever. What happens in those instances, Juanita? And when we know somebody's moving over, let's stay with the 401k because that's a little easier to dissect right now. Where do you come in and when?
So the first thing that happens when that new business comes over, we're evaluating the types of accounts, the custodians they're working with, and assigning the tasks so that we can pick up and call. Usually we know in advance which custodians are going to require an account number and which ones aren't. Of course, we're also dealing with complex transactions with transfers as well. We're looking at everything and listening. And then Craig will usually step in and reach out to the client to kind of explain to them what's going to happen, see when they're available, whether or not we need an account number, and what the timeline's going to be.
Okay, now JJ, and we're going to go into a deep dive on this, folks, so hang tight. But so JJ, in its simplest form, Craig's done the rollover call. Juanita's got the Schwab account set up. The check comes in. Where do you come in with the annuities in that example? We might have that lovely split IRA that we talk about, but where do you come in terms of the timing of moving that money over to our annuities?
So anytime the money is going to Charles Schwab first, I have to wait for that rollover that you discussed earlier to arrive there. And then Juanita, Craig, will give me the okay to sweep those funds out of the Charles Schwab account for the annuity. Annuities are still a little bit old school in their method of transferring the funds. So it does go by a regular check. So there is a little bit of lag time with the mail. We can expect about a 2-week time for transfer for it to get from the Schwab account to that said annuity.
We talked earlier, Juanita, about the changes in technology. It is kind of weird because we work with Schwab so much and we hate to dog annuity companies, insurance companies. I've worked with them for years. I love insurance companies. But yeah, speak to the technology change, just what Jennifer brought up in terms of how quickly we get money to Schwab versus the antiquated way sometimes we have to get money to the insurance companies for the annuities.
Well, the truth is, custodians with rollovers also are sending checks. However, we can do full ACH transfers coming electronically through some custodians, and so those are very quick. Honestly, it's a bit of a mixed bag with who's sending a check and who's sending electronic transfers, but it can certainly delay the process. And in the worst case scenario, if a check just cannot be tracked or is missing at times, we're working hard to determine where that is and to get it quickly deposited. So a lot of things can happen. Technology is increasing daily. I would be surprised long term if they continue this mailing the paper check and we don't go to more seeing those ACH transfers.
Yeah, there'll be people walk in the office. They'll either, especially in the Louisville office, we have them in Bowling Green too, but in the Louisville office, we do a lot of rollovers. So all of a sudden, people will walk in and go, hey, I got this check. And they kind of have a feeling of like anxiousness, don't they? I mean, that check could be $600,000, $800,000, and it's been left on their doorstep and they rush over here with it. Speak to that, Craig. I know I was in a meeting the other day and a gentleman drove 60 miles to bring that check over. So why did he get a paper check on that rollover and why did he have to bring it to us?
Typically, the government needs to know where those funds are, right? On a rollover, we'll hear that they are going to get a 1099. It's not a taxable event, but it's reportable. And so the government's tracking where the funds are and what kind of funds these are. So the paper check also comes with a check stub that will list out. These are pre-tax funds, these are Roth funds, these are after-tax funds. So the check stub still in a lot of these cases does seem to be really important. But certainly they come in with a rollover check. We can bring it up for the Schwab department. We just deposit it electronically. Within hours, it's in the account. Within a matter of days, it's available. And so it's a pretty quick process once the check arrives here.
And JJ, we don't have that capability though with insurance companies, do we? Yeah, so we get a check, because sometimes checks do come to the insurance companies. Again, there is no electronic way to get that to the insurance companies, correct?
No, unfortunately not. The process, it could mirror the Charles Schwab process a little bit when it comes to a rollover. Craig is still involved. He would request that check either be sent to the custodian, the new insurance carrier, or the client. And a lot of times that he can speak to that better, but a lot of times that is preferred by their current custodian. So they will only allow it to go certain ways, I think, sometimes. So we will still get a check in office that's going directly to annuity, or sometimes they'll mail it directly to the annuity company, but it does have to physically be mailed to them. So if we receive it in office, we would send it in on the client's behalf. And then every once in a while, I think Craig can, depending on the custodian, can get that sent directly to the new insurance carrier, but it does have to physically go.
And I think what we're trying to say here, folks, is there's a lot involved when you decide to move money over. And not that we don't take responsibility. We do the best we can, but there are a lot of things out of our control when we're trying to get this money transferred over. You touched on something earlier, the ACH transfer. Now, that's process is pretty easy. Where would an ACH transfer come into play, Juanita, and how quickly we can move that money over? Can you describe that situation?
Those are usually coming from IRAs, from custodians, depending on what the holdings are in the account. We're immediately assessing those holdings, determining if they can transfer and whether or not the client wants to transfer those in kind, or we can liquidate. At that point, once we submit that transfer, it can happen within the week, and those funds are available very quickly into the account. So transfers from IRAs are a little bit different, and also depending on what type of holdings are in the accounts. We're listening to the client, we're ensuring that we're bringing it over the way they want to, and we can get them over fairly quickly, I would say, within a week's time on the ACAT.
And in our time remaining, again, we're not trying to dog our competitors at all, but I've often said that it's a whole lot easier for insurance companies, brokerage firms, big wirehouses to accept your money, and it seems to be hard sometimes to get it back from them.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed that video. If you'd like, check out these other clips. And be sure to hit that like button and that subscribe button for more videos.